The morning rush at Rosie's diner was always loud. Sizzling bacon, clinking plates, and a low hum of people trying to wake up with coffee strong enough to melt metal. But for Maya Carter, this chaos was comfort. The rhythm of pouring coffee, scribbling orders, and flashing a tired smile had become second nature. She'd worked here since she was 17, and now at 26, the place felt less like a job and more like the background music of her life. That Tuesday morning started like any other, until the door chimed and a man in a perfectly tailored navy blue suit walked in. He looked like he'd stepped out of a Wall Street commercial. Confident stride, silver watch, shoes that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. He didn't seem like the kind of person who'd eat at a greasy diner off Route 8. But what caught Maya's attention wasn't his suit, it was his eyes. He looked around the diner, as if searching for something familiar, then sat in her section. "Good morning," Maya said with her usual practice smile, pen poised over her notepad. "Coffee, please," he said, voice calm and low, like someone used to being obeyed. When she returned with the mug, he glanced at her name tag. "Maya," he said, testing the name as if it meant something. "You've worked here long?" "Pretty much forever," she said with a chuckle. "Why? Are you hiring somewhere fancier?" He smiled faintly. "Not exactly. I just thought you looked familiar." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You one of those guys who thinks every waitress looks like someone you went to high school with?" He shook his head. "No, it's not that." Before she could respond, another customer called for a refill, and Maya hurried off. When she came back, the man was gone, but he left a business card under his untouched plate of pancakes. "Ethan Walker, Walker Enterprises, CEO." She frowned. The name sounded familiar, but she couldn't place it. CEOs didn't usually tip in crisp $100 bills, either. She tucked the card in her apron pocket and went back to work, figuring he was just another rich guy passing through. But Ethan Walker didn't just pass through. He came back the next morning, and the morning after that, always ordering the same black coffee, always sitting in her section. After the third visit, Maya finally asked, "Okay, what's your deal? You don't look like the kind of guy who eats diner pancakes 3 days in a row." He smiled. "Maybe I like the service." She rolled her eyes. "Flattery doesn't increase your tip, just so you know." He laughed softly, then leaned forward. "You really don't remember me, do you?" Maya blinked. "Should I?" He didn't answer, just reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A locket, gold, slightly tarnished, with a little crack on one side. Her heart stopped. She knew that locket. She used to wear it every day until she lost it when she was 12. Inside was a faded picture of her as a kid, standing beside a smiling woman, her mother, on the porch of their old house in Atlanta. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. Ethan looked at her carefully. "It was in my family's house. Framed. The same picture that's inside." Maya stepped back like she'd been burned. "What are you talking about?" "That's my photo. That's me." "I know," he said quietly. "That's what I've been trying to understand." The diner felt suddenly smaller, the air thick with something she couldn't name. Confusion, disbelief, maybe fear. "You're saying you have my childhood photo in your house? Why? Who are you, really?" "I told you. Ethan Walker." She shook her head. "No, I mean, who are you to me? Because this," she pointed to the locket, "this doesn't make sense." Ethan looked around. People were watching now. He stood, left $100 on the counter, and said softly, "I think you should see it for yourself." He slipped a card toward her again, this time with an address scribbled on the back. "Come by tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. And then he was gone, leaving Maya standing in the middle of the diner, heart pounding. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that locket, her locket, in his hands. She still remembered the day she lost it. It was right before her mom died. After the funeral, she and her aunt had moved to another city, and life became a blur of foster homes, side jobs, and survival. She'd never thought much about her past. It was easier not to, but now, suddenly, her past was knocking at the door. By 6:30 p.m. the next evening, Maya was standing outside a gated mansion on the edge of the city. The guard checked her name and waved her through like he'd been expecting her. Her old Honda looked painfully out of place among the sleek cars in the circular driveway. The house itself looked like something out of a movie, marble steps, glass walls, and a front door so tall it could swallow her whole. When Ethan opened it, he wasn't in a suit this time, just jeans and a white shirt, sleeves rolled up. He smiled faintly. "You came." "Barely," she muttered. I almost turned around twice. "Understandable. Come in." The air inside smelled like cedar and lemon polish. Expensive paintings lined the hallway, but Maya barely noticed. Her eyes were drawn to a framed photo hanging beside a grand staircase. It was her. Same picture from the locket. Only this version was enlarged, professionally restored, and hung in a silver frame. Maya froze. That's me. Why is that on your wall?" Ethan looked at it for a long moment before answering. "Because my father put it there. 20 years ago." Her mouth went dry. "Your father?" He nodded slowly. He said it was a reminder of a promise he never kept. Maya's pulse hammered in her ears. What promise? Ethan hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "It's a long story, and it doesn't paint my family in the best light." "Well, I'm standing in your mansion," she said bitterly. "I think you'll survive a little bad lighting." Ethan gave a small, humorless laugh. "Fair point. Come with me." He led her down a hallway toward a large study lined with bookshelves. On the desk sat a framed newspaper clipping, yellowed and fragile. Maya leaned closer and read the headline. "Local woman found dead after house fire. Police seek missing daughter." Her breath caught in her throat. The date was the same week her mother had died. "Why do you have this?" she whispered. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Because my father was the man the police questioned that night." Maya turned to him, eyes wide. "What?" He met her gaze, expression unreadable. "And that's just the beginning." Maya's knees almost gave out. For a moment, she just stared at Ethan, trying to process what he'd said. "Your father was questioned about my mom's death?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan nodded slowly. "But he was never charged. The fire was ruled an accident. At least, that's what the official report said." "And you," she took a shaky breath, "you knew this, and you just came waltzing into my diner like it was no big deal?" "I didn't know who you were at first," Ethan said quickly. "I swear, I only realized when I saw your name tag. And your face. You look exactly like the girl in that photo." Maya crossed her arms, anger pushing through the shock. "So what? You thought you'd play detective? Drop a business card and see if I come running." "I didn't know how else to reach you," he said softly. "I've been trying to piece together what really happened for years. My father, he died last summer. But before he passed, he left me a letter." He reached into a drawer and pulled out an old envelope, edges frayed. He said there were things he'd hidden, mistakes that haunted him. And one of those mistakes had to do with a woman named Denise Carter, your mother. Maya's breath hitched at the sound of her mother's name. "My mom?" He knew her. Ethan nodded. "They met when he was still young, before he built the company. She worked as a live-in housekeeper for our family, for a short time. He told me she was one of the kindest people he'd ever met, and one of few who ever stood up to him." Maya frowned. "That doesn't sound like a reason to hang her picture on the wall for 20 years. "No," Ethan agreed quietly. "But the reason he gave me is complicated." He handed her the letter. "Read it. Maybe it'll make more sense coming from him." Maya hesitated, then unfolded the fragile paper. The handwriting was shaky, written in dark blue ink. "To my son, Ethan, there are things I've carried for decades, things I never had the courage to face. In 1999, a woman named Denise Carter worked for us. She had a daughter, Maya. She was bright, polite, full of life. One night, there was an argument. I said things I can never take back. The next morning, she was gone. A week later, I saw the news, the fire, her death, and the missing child. I should have come forward, but I didn't. I was afraid. I told myself it wasn't my fault. But the truth is, I could have helped. I could have changed everything. I kept her daughter's photo as a reminder, Not of guilt alone, but the promise I made to find her someday and make it right. If you ever read this, son, please do what I couldn't. Maya's vision blurred. Her hands shook as she lowered the letter. So your dad knew my mom, and when she died, he just kept living like nothing happened. Ethan's voice was quiet. He was a different man back then. Cold, ruthless. But that photo, he nodded toward the wall. It haunted him. He never told anyone the full story. Not even me, until that letter. Maya turned toward the framed picture again. Seeing her own childhood face staring back felt surreal, like time had folded in on itself. So what? You're trying to make it right for him now. I'm trying to understand, Ethan said, and maybe help you get some answers, too. Answers? Maya's laugh came out sharp and bitter. My mom's dead. The case is closed. What answers? He hesitated. The fire wasn't random. Maya froze. What do you mean? I hired a private investigator after my father's death, Ethan continued. He found inconsistencies in the report. The fire started in the basement, nowhere near the kitchen, where they said it began. There were signs of forced entry. Someone broke in that night. Wait, Maya whispered. You're saying it was an accident? Ethan nodded grimly. I think your mother was murdered. The words hit her like a physical blow. No, she said, shaking her head. No, she wasn't. That's not possible. She was kind. She didn't have enemies. I know this is hard to hear, Ethan said gently. But the deeper I dig, the more questions I find. And the only name that keeps showing up is my father's. Maya's heart raced. So what, you think he killed her? Ethan's eyes darkened. I don't know, but I think he knew who did. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the ticking of a clock somewhere behind them. Finally, Maya whispered, Why tell me all this? You could have just left it buried. Because I owe you the truth, Ethan said. And because I think you deserve to know what really happened to your mother. Maya stared at him for a long time. Despite the anger boiling inside her, there was something in his eyes, sincerity, maybe even guilt. And somewhere beneath her fear and disbelief, curiosity sparked. Fine, she said finally. You want to dig up the past? Let's do it. But if I find out your family had anything to do with my mom's death, I swear. You'll get your justice, Ethan said softly. I promise. He reached for a folder on the desk and handed it to her. Inside were old photographs, police reports, and a burned piece of wood labeled as evidence. Maya's gaze fell on one picture, a family photo of Ethan as a little boy standing next to his parents. Behind them, partly visible in the background, was her mother, Denise Carter, holding a tray, smiling at the camera. She worked for you, Maya murmured. She was right there. Ethan nodded, and she left suddenly. No notice. My mother said she ran away after a fight with my dad. Maya frowned. My mom never mentioned any of this. She told me she cleaned houses sometimes, but she never said who for. Maybe she was protecting you, Ethan said quietly. From him. From all of it. The idea sank into her chest like a stone. For years, Maya had thought her life was just bad luck, a tragedy followed by struggle. But now, staring at that file, she realized there might have been a reason behind everything. She took a deep breath. All right, what's next? Ethan met her eyes. Tomorrow we visit the old house, the one that burned down. Maya froze. It's still there. The shell of it. Yes, I bought the property years ago. My father said he couldn't stand to see it torn down. A chill ran through her. He kept it? Ethan nodded. And if we're lucky, it still holds the answers he never wanted to face. Maya looked back at the letter, then at the photo of her younger self. Something in her heart, a mix of anger, fear, and resolve, hardened into determination. She slipped the locket from her pocket and held it tight. Then let's find the truth. The next morning was cold, gray, and heavy with fog, the kind that makes even familiar roads feel haunted. Maya followed Ethan's black SUV along a winding back road until they turned down a narrow gravel path that seemed to lead nowhere. Then through the trees, she saw it, A burned-out skeleton of a house sitting alone on a hill. It wasn't much more than charred beams and crumbling brick now, but something about it felt familiar. Even after all those years, a flicker of memory tugged at her. The sound of laughter, her mother's voice singing softly, the smell of cornbread baking in the oven, then the memory of smoke. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel. Ethan parked near what used to be the driveway and got out. "You okay?" "Yeah," Maya said, though her voice didn't sound convincing. "Just we're being back." "I can imagine." They walked toward the ruins. Every step crunched on blackened wood and brittle leaves. The front door was gone, but the frame still stood, warped by heat. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the ghost of what used to be a home. Ethan pointed to the far wall. That used to be the kitchen. The report said that's where the fire started. Maya crouched down, running her fingers over the soot-stained floorboards. "My mom used to keep her recipes right here," she murmured, "in a little metal box with flowers on it." She looked up suddenly. "You said the fire started in the basement?" He nodded. "That's what the new investigator found. There's a trapdoor under where the pantry used to be." Together, they cleared away debris until a metal handle appeared, rusted but intact. Ethan tugged hard, and with a creak, the door lifted open. A rush of cold, damp air hit them. A narrow staircase led down into darkness. "You sure about this?" Ethan asked quietly. "No," Maya said, "but I'm going anyway." He turned on his phone flashlight and led the way down. The air grew colder, the smell stronger. Damp wood, old ashes, time itself. At the bottom was a small basement, the walls covered in soot. A few shelves remained, warped by heat. One corner, however, looked untouched, a patch of wall cleaner than the rest. "Looks like someone scrubbed this," Ethan murmured. Maya shined her light closer. "Wait, is that—" There were faint marks carved into the wall. At first they looked random, but when she wiped away the grime, words emerged. For Maya, trust no one. Her breath caught. "Oh my God!" Ethan leaned closer. "She wrote that." "It's her handwriting," Maya whispered. "I'd know it anywhere." They stood in stunned silence for a moment, the weight of those 4 words pressing down on them. Ethan finally said, "If she wrote that before the fire, she knew something was wrong." Maya nodded slowly. "She must have. But what? And why tell me not to trust anyone?" Ethan hesitated. "Maybe she didn't mean me." Maya gave a dry laugh. "You think?" They searched the rest of the basement carefully. Most of it was destroyed, but behind one of the shelves, Maya's light caught on something metallic, a small tin box, half buried under ash. She pried it open. Inside were a few old photos, a folded letter, and a key. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the letter. The paper was burned at the edges, but the writing was still legible. "If anything happens to me, give this to the police. They'll know what to do. Don't let them find Maya. Not until it's safe." "Safe from who?" Maya whispered. Ethan gently took the letter, scanning it. "This part's smudged, but I can make out a name." He squinted. "It says M. Walker." "That's my mother." Maya's head snapped up. "Your mother?" He nodded slowly, looking as stunned as she felt. "That doesn't make sense. My mother was. She's still alive. She lives upstate." "Then maybe she knows something," Maya said. "Maybe she's the reason your father felt guilty." Ethan shook his head in disbelief. "My mother's not a violent person. She's strict, cold maybe, but she wouldn't." "Ethan," Maya interrupted softly, "your dad kept my picture on the wall. Not hers. Maybe he was trying to protect me from her." The idea hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "If my mother had anything to do with this," he trailed off, unable to finish. Maya stared at the tin box again. "What about the key? Maybe it goes to something." They examined it. Old brass, with an engraving that read, "Walker Safe Company." Ethan's eyes widened. "That's my father's office safe. I still have it." Maya looked at him sharply. "Then we're opening it." Ethan hesitated. "If we do this, there's no going back. If my mother's involved..." Maya cut him off. She wrote, "Trust no one." I think she meant it. He nodded slowly. "All right, we'll go tonight." As they climbed back out of the basement, Maya glanced one last time at the message carved into the wall. For Maya, trust no one. It didn't feel like a warning anymore. It felt like a prophecy. By the time they got back to Ethan's mansion, the sun had already set. The air outside buzzed with crickets, but inside the house, everything felt eerily still. Ethan led Maya to his late father's study, the same room where she'd read the letter the day before. In the corner stood a large safe, old-fashioned with a brass dial. Ethan knelt down and slid the key into the slot. It turned smoothly, like it had been waiting. He pulled the door open, revealing stacks of documents, envelopes, and an old photo album. Maya stepped closer, her heart pounding. "What are we looking for?" "Anything about your mother," Ethan said, sifting through papers. "Financial records, letters, maybe." He froze. "What?" Maya asked. He held up a file marked Confidential, D. Carter. Maya's stomach dropped. "Open it." Ethan flipped it open. Inside were typed reports, employment records, payment slips, even surveillance notes. And at the back, a DNA test. Maya's breath hitched. "What is that?" Ethan read it once. Then again. His face went pale. He looked at her, voice barely above a whisper. "Maya, this says you're my sister." For a moment, the world stopped. Maya just stared at him, unable to breathe. No, that's impossible." Ethan swallowed hard. "My father's name is listed as the biological father." Maya shook her head violently. "No, my mom would have told me." "Maybe she couldn't," Ethan said quietly. "Maybe that's why she wanted to keep you safe." Maya stumbled back, her chest tightening. Everything around her, the house, the letters, the photo on the wall, suddenly felt different. He wasn't just some rich stranger with her picture in his home. He was family, and somehow that made everything even more terrifying. Maya couldn't stop pacing. Her whole body felt like it was vibrating, her mind spinning faster than she could catch a thought. "Your father?" she said, her voice cracking. "You're saying your father, my father, was the same person? That were siblings." Ethan sat behind the desk, elbows on his knees, the file still open in his hands. "That's what it says." "No," Maya said quickly, shaking her head. "No, this has to be wrong. Maybe it's fake. Maybe someone planted it." "Maya," Ethan interrupted softly. "I ran the company security archive after my father died. These files haven't been touched in over 20 years. She stared at him, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. "So he had a whole other family. A secret. And my mom," she swallowed hard, "was just part of it." Ethan's face twisted in guilt. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." She turned away, pressing a hand over her mouth. Her breath came out shaky. "All this time, I thought I was just another nobody waitress. Turns out, I've been related to the people who caused everything I lost." Ethan stood slowly. "You didn't lose everything." "Not yet." She laughed bitterly. "Oh, really? Because it kind of feels like I did." Before he could answer, a voice called from the doorway. "Ethan." They both turned. A tall woman stood there, dressed elegantly in a cream-colored suit. Her silver hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her presence filled the room like cold air. "Mother," Ethan said stiffly. Her gaze shifted to Maya, lingering for a moment. "You didn't tell me we had company." Maya wiped her face quickly, trying to steady her voice. "I didn't realize this was a family reunion." Ethan's mother's eyes narrowed slightly. "And who might you be?" Ethan stepped in. "This is Maya Carter." The woman froze. For a fraction of a second, her expression cracked. Shock, fear, maybe even guilt, before she recovered. "Carter?" she repeated. "As in Denise Carter?" Maya nodded slowly. "You remember her?" Mrs. Walker's lips tightened. "Of course I remember. She worked here many years ago." "Worked," Maya repeated. "That's one way to put it." Ethan stepped forward, his tone careful but firm. "Mother, we found something. In the safe. There's a file about Maya." about her mother, and there's a DNA test. Mrs. Walker's eyes flicked to the open folder on the desk, then back to Ethan. And it says Maya's my sister, he said quietly. The silence that followed felt like a thunderclap. Mrs. Walker's jaw clenched. That file should never have been opened. Maya took a step forward. So it's true? Mrs. Walker looked between them, her calm facade starting to crack. Your father made mistakes, she said carefully. But digging them up won't help anyone now. Won't help. Maya snapped. He lied to both of us. He left my mother to die and erased me like I didn't exist. Mrs. Walker's voice hardened. You think you're the only one who suffered? You think I didn't pay the price for his choices? Ethan frowned. Mother, what are you talking about? She turned toward him, eyes shining with a mix of anger and exhaustion. You were a child, Ethan. You don't remember what he did to this family. How he humiliated me with that affair. How I had to smile at charity events while everyone whispered behind my back. Maya's stomach twisted. So you knew about us? Mrs. Walker didn't deny it. I found out when your mother came here, pregnant, begging him for help. She wanted money, a chance to raise you safely. But he refused. He said he couldn't risk his reputation. Ethan's voice dropped. And you? Mrs. Walker looked away. I told her to leave. I told her if she ever came back, I'd make sure no one believed a word she said. Maya's hands curled into fists. You ruined her life. Mrs. Walker's tone turned icy. She ruined mine. She took what was mine and expected me to forgive her. Your mother wasn't innocent. Maya stepped closer. She was a good woman. She worked herself to the bone to raise me. She died because of you. Mrs. Walker's expression flickered again. Not guilt, but something darker. You think I killed her? Ethan looked between them. Wait, did you? Mrs. Walker laughed bitterly. Of course not. But your father, he told me later that night that she was gone. He said there had been a fire. He said it was an accident. Then why did he keep her picture? Maya demanded. Her voice softened slightly. Because he loved her. Even after everything. He said she was the only person who ever looked at him and saw a soul. The words hit like a punch to the chest. Maya's anger wavered, replaced by something more complicated. Grief, maybe. Ethan took a cautious step forward. Mother, there's something else you need to see. He handed her the letter his father had written, the confession about Denise Carter. She read it silently, her hands trembling by the end. When she finally looked up, tears streaked her cheeks. He knew, she whispered. All these years he knew. Maya's voice broke. And he did nothing. Mrs. Walker's voice was barely a breath. He said the fire was an accident, but I don't think it was. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Her gaze dropped to the floor. The night of the fire, he left the house in a rage. I thought he'd gone to drink. But later, he came back, covered in soot. He told me not to ask questions. The room went still. You think he said himself? Maya whispered. Mrs. Walker shook her head. No, I think he went to stop her. But someone else was already there. Ethan's pulse quickened. Someone else. Mrs. Walker nodded slowly. Your uncle, Marcus. Maya blinked. You have a brother? Ethan nodded grimly. He managed the company before my father took over. They had a falling out years ago. Mrs. Walker looked between them, her voice trembling. Marcus wanted everything. The business, the money, and he hated your mother for what she represented. He said she'd ruin us. The night of the fire, he swore he'd take care of it. I never saw him again after that. Maya stared at her in disbelief. So you're saying your brother, my uncle, killed my mother? Mrs. Walker closed her eyes. I'm saying it's possible. The three of them stood there, the weight of 2 decades of secrets pressing down like a storm cloud. Finally, Ethan said quietly, Then we find him. Mrs. Walker looked up sharply. Ethan, don't. He cut her off. No, he destroyed both of our families. It's time someone made him answer for it. Maya met his gaze, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Then I'm coming with you. Mrs. Walker reached out. Maya, please. There are things you don't understand. Maya turned to her coldly, then started explaining. But Mrs. Walker only looked down at the letter again, her husband's final confession, and whispered, "Some truths are worse than lies." The drive to the old industrial district felt endless. The city lights blurred past the windshield, smearing into streaks of gold and blue while Maya's thoughts ran wild. Beside her, Ethan's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. They hadn't spoken much since leaving the mansion. There was too much to process. Too many ghosts in the back seat. "Are you sure he still owns this place?" Maya asked finally. Ethan nodded. The last business filings listed Marcus Walker as the landlord. It's mostly abandoned factories now, but one warehouse still shows power usage. Maya's voice was low. "Then that's where he is." When they pulled up, the warehouse loomed over them like a relic of another age. Rusted metal, broken windows, a flickering light above the door. The air smelled of oil and rain. Ethan killed the engine and glanced at her. "You don't have to go in." Maya let out a shaky laugh. "After everything I've learned, I'm not waiting in the car." Inside, the echo of their footsteps bounced off the concrete floor. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, casting long shadows. And there he was, an older man with gray at his temples, sitting at a desk covered in dusty ledgers. He looked up, startled, then smiled faintly. "Well," he said, voice rough but steady, "if it isn't little Ethan, you finally figured it out." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You knew we'd come." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "I expected you sooner." His gaze slid to Maya. "And this must be Denise's daughter. You look just like her." Maya's pulse spiked. "You have no right to say her name." Marcus sighed, almost theatrically. "She was a good woman, your mother, but she didn't understand power. She thought talent and kindness could survive in this world. She was wrong." Ethan stepped closer. "Tell us the truth about the fire." Marcus studied him for a moment, then stood. "Your father sent me to talk to her. That much is true. He was afraid she'd go public, destroy the company, the family name. I just wanted to make her leave town quietly." Maya's voice trembled with anger. "But she didn't leave, did she?" He shook his head slowly. "No. She fought back. She told me she had proof, letters, photos, things your father had written. She said she'd expose him." "So you killed her?" Ethan shouted. Marcus slammed his fist on the desk, startling them both. "No, I didn't kill her." His voice cracked. "I was trying to scare her. I set a small fire in the trash bin to make her pack up, but the flames caught the curtains. By the time I realized it was too late." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You let her die." Marcus looked down at his hands. "I tried to pull her out. I swear I did. But the smoke," his voice trailed off. "I barely made out myself." For a long moment, there was only the hum of the flickering light. Then Maya whispered, "You could have told someone. You could have told me." Marcus looked older suddenly, defeated. "Your father made me disappear. Said he'd ruin me if I ever spoke. Paid me off to vanish. So I did. I thought staying silent would keep everyone safe." Ethan stepped forward, voice shaking. "Safe? You destroyed 2 families." Marcus gave a bitter laugh. "And yet here you are, rich, powerful, angry, just like him." He looked at Maya. "You think you're different? You came here for revenge, too." Maya's fist unclenched slowly. "No, I came here for truth." Something in her tone made Ethan look at her. She was trembling, but there was a calm underneath, like she'd finally reached the end of a long road. Marcus moved toward an old filing cabinet and pulled out a small box. "There's one more thing you should see." Inside was a scorched music box, its paint blistered from heat. "It was hers," he said softly. "Your mother's. I found it outside after the fire." Maya took it carefully, brushing soot from its surface. When she wound it, the mechanism wheezed but still managed to play a few shaky notes, a lullaby she hadn't heard since childhood. The sound broke something open inside her. She sank to her knees, clutching it to her chest. Ethan knelt beside her, putting a hand on her shoulder. "Maya," she wiped her tears roughly. "She used to play this for me before bed. I thought I'd imagined it. Marcus lowered his gaze. She loved you, more than anything. Ethan looked at his uncle coldly. You'll tell the police everything. Every detail. Marcus nodded. I already wrote a statement. It's in the desk. Maybe it's time the world knows. Maya stood, her voice steadier now. It is... They left the warehouse just as dawn began to break, the sky turning pale pink over the city. Neither of them spoke until they reached the car. Finally, Ethan said quietly, You know, you could claim part of this estate. Legally, you're my sister. Maya looked at him, the corners of her mouth lifting sadly. I don't want his money, Ethan. I just wanted to know who I was. He nodded. Then maybe we start from there. Weeks passed. The investigation reopened. Marcus turned himself in, and the truth about the fire made headlines. Public sympathy poured in for Denise Carter's daughter, while the Walker family name, once a symbol of untouchable wealth, was now associated with scandal and silence. Through it all, Ethan stood by Maya. He closed a mansion for renovations, planning to turn it into a community arts center named after her mother. When the press asked why, he said simply, because stories like hers deserve a place to be heard. Months later, Maya returned to the mansion one last time. The walls were being repainted, the old portraits replaced with photographs of local artists. But in the main hall, one picture remained, the same framed photo that had started it all. She stared at it quietly, the image of her 6-year-old self grinning at the camera, unaware of the storm her life would become. Funny, a voice said behind her. Ethan, smiling softly. That photo used to confuse me. Now it reminds me where we came from. Maya turned to him. You really think we can fix all this? He shrugged. Maybe not fix, but we can build something better. She smiled faintly. For once, that doesn't sound impossible. As she started to leave, she paused, touching the frame gently. Mom, she whispered, they finally know. Outside, the morning sun hit the marble steps, warm and golden. Maya breathed deeply, letting it fill her lungs. For the first time in years, the weight in her chest lifted. She wasn't just a waitress anymore, or the forgotten child in someone else's story. She was Maya Carter Walker, the girl who found her truth, even when it hurt to see it. And somewhere in the distance, a faint melody echoed, the same lullaby from the music box, carried by the wind, as if her mother were saying, You made it, baby. Maya smiled, stepped into the light, and didn't look back.